Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them, and I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. We're going to be looking at 3 issues today. Now, real quick, we're going to be looking at Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man 43, 47, and 48. Now, why am I going to cover these issues? Well, let me show you what I have here. Now, I actually have this trade paperback. I don't have the Spectacular Spider-Man single issues, but I do have the Amazing Spider-Man single issues. And we are looking, at the origin of the Hobgoblin. And I was about to start getting into the Amazing Spider-Man run of Roger Stern. But before he took over the Amazing Spider-Man, Roger Stern had a run on the Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, we there was a big mystery as to who was the Hobgoblin, and he eventually revealed who the Hobgoblin was. And let me tell you, it's really hard because of how what he was and how what he became. Hobgoblin was cool, is cool, but who he was before he became Hobgoblin is a bit of really kind of one of those things here. So we're gonna start with Peter Parker 43 from 1980, and the main villain here is this lady called Belladonna. But right here, John Byrne, by the way, and Joseph Rubinstein do the cover here. Nice cover by Byrne. And this guy here is going to be the Hobgoblin. This is Roderick Kingsley, I believe. We'll get his name inside. And he was a fashion designer, which is, again, I'm like, huh? Okay. But he works as the Hobgoblin. Now, the mystery of who the Hobgoblin was went through a lot of iterations, because when Roger Stern left Amazing Spider-Man and it was taken over by Tom DeFalco, he had told him who it was, but that there was no, he was setting him up for Roderick Kingsley. But then DeFalco started making all these different, this whole thing, who it was Flash Thompson, it was oh my goodness, oh my goodness, Ned Leeds, it was this, it was that. It just eventually it was revealed that it was Roderick Kingsley all along, and he was the Hobgoblin. So we're gonna look at the first appearances of him. So here we go with 43, and Mike Zeck is the penciler, and this is a very early Mike Zeck. This is the same Mike Zeck that's gonna draw those awesome covers from Captain America. In like 5 years, this guy becomes amazing. He ends up doing Secret Wars, but very rough. So at a lab, Peter hears with his lab partner. This guy busts through, Pretty Poison's the title. And you can see here Roger Stern. This is actually his first issue of the Spectacular Spider-Man. And so these guys come through. They're going to rob this thing here at the school. This is at the Peter's taking graduate courses here at the university. I think it's called Empire State. And they're gonna steal something. Peter thinks he needs to do something, but he's afraid what happens if he does something, even if he gives up his secret identity, and they end up getting shot. So they open up this supply closet here. Peter bumps into this thing so that it hits the fire. They get what they need here, and they stick him in the closet. When Peter put that thing in the fire, it explodes. The sprinklers come off, and these guys are like, "Let's get out of here." So Peter closes the door. They go running. He uses a fire extinguisher to get it out. Peter needs to track them, so he goes out grabs one of his spider trackers, throws it, and of course it lands on the guy here. He's gonna go after them, but these cops or security guards come through. They call the cops, they take the notes, tell him to go home, and he tells her to take that girl home and he'll clean up. And so he does, but Peter's like, I'm not gonna clean. I'm gonna go find out what is going on. So he takes um takes his turns into Spider-Man and goes to look, and his spider sense goes off as he goes into this skylight here, sees this guy here, and he's like, man, he's super skinny. It makes they're like, they call me Puny Parker. Next to him, I'm look like Hercules. And this is Roderick Kingsley, who is a fashion designer. And he smells a fragrance. The door comes through, and it is a Madame Belladonna. Now we will get to her origin momentarily here, but anyway, she blames Roderick for ruining her career. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, and he's like, you stole my designs, and Spider-Man's watching all this, and he comes through and he starts fighting all these people. I'm really just kind of giving you just the synopsis, because when we start getting into Amazing Spider-Man's the Hobgoblin run, I'll be I just kind of want to give you the prequel per se. So Spider-Man deals with this henchman, and she goes, I'm warning you, Spider-Man, Belladonna's business is none of your affair. And Spider-Man, you call that a threat? You can do better than that. And so she sends him more of this fog thing, or this fragrance thing here, and Spider-Man uses his webbing to dissolve the gas, but he's hit from behind, and they leave. So he helps Roderick Kingsley up, and they get out. And he wakes up. He's like, "You mass ruffian! You're responsible for this." And Spider-Man's like, "What? This guy's gonna be the Hobgoblin. That is something." And he's like, "You heard me. If you hadn't butted in, that harpy would have just stolen a few petty designs, which I could have traced and been on her way. But now my studio's in shambles, and I was nearly killed. It's just like the Daily Bugle says. You're a menace to society. Bugle, Kingsley, you just said the secret word." And then Spider-Man webs him, and he'll like, it'll dissolve in an hour or two. I'd consider subscribing to a more reputable paper if I were you. An hour or two, I'll catch my death of a cold. And so Spider-Man leaves. And so that really is the last part. So we're really not going to see much of, we're not going to see him for a bit. And so we're not going to really concern ourselves with, because this issue is going to skip over. Oh, no, there is one more part here. Sorry. I almost went to the next one here. So Peter goes to take pictures of the fashion show, and Kingsley's gonna open up to show his new stuff, and he says, Roderick Kingsley look for the fall. And then they open, and it's all destruction. Everybody laughs, and it was Belladonna, and who did this. And then all the people come through, all her people come through again. And so Spider-Man takes that time. She uses this gas, knocks him out. Peter's gonna go change, and uses this so that this, you still breathe when you put that on. I wonder if people realize that doesn't keep you from not it just I don't know. Anyway, all right. So he creates like some kind of filter, even though it's not an actual filter, and puts on his mask. And she's like, "Please, Roderick here, the future Hobgoblin. Please, you can't do this. The insurance claims will break me. I'll be ruined." And Belladonna says, "Isn't that too bad? You've never seemed to worry about the lives you ruined, the careers you destroyed over the years." And so Spider-Man comes, and we are going to deal with these thugs again. And his spider sense goes off because they try to hit him from behind again, but this time it's not going to work. And so um here he goes. Belladonna says, "You surprised me, Spider-Man. I didn't think you'd be fool enough to cross me again, knowing what I can do." And so he's like, "It's all part of the job, Bella." And so Spider-Man jumps, takes her gun here, but she gets away, and um, she runs, turns on the light because it's light, and when the lights turn on, it rattles Spider-Man. It's the 1980s. That's all right. We're still kind of doing these stories a little bit here, but now she's gone. This is all foggy, and he's like, well, I'm sure I'll see her again. So there is no next issue here because this collection doesn't have the next issue. So we go straight to number 47. Now, in 47, we have the Prowler, but it is not the original Prowler. It's a new Prowler. This Prowler, I think, is a white guy. But we're not really going to concern ourselves with the story. But the reason that it is here, Mary Severin is the penciler for this. By the way, rest in peace, Mary Severin. And Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. And Dennis O'Neil, editor. Rest in peace. And this the reason this is included here is because it's Belladonna and it's going to go dealing straight into the next issue. So we're not going to concern ourselves with the Prowler story. Just know that Peter is going to deal with the Prowler. I think this is the old Prowler here, and Peter's suspecting him, but he says he's quit being the Prowler. And so now it's this it's a redhead, so that makes him in comic books the redheads are supposed to be Irish, or the men redheads are supposed to be Irish. And so we got the return of Belladonna here, who had hired him. And so again, we're not really concerned ourselves with so she had hired him for a job, and I think this is Aunt May and Nathan. So anyway, here we go. I know. Because again, I'm just trying to give you a bit of context to when we get to the Hobgoblin, because the Hobgoblin is so cool, but the fact that he used to be this lame dude is it's pretty awesome. So Belladonna, they're Spider-Man goes after the Prowler, but now they're all trapped in this building, and Belladonna won't let either one go. So she's like, "Oh, sorry, Prowler," and so he's a bit claustrophobic, and so pours in gas, and so now we're gonna deal with the next issue, number 48, and then 48 features the return of Kingsley here. It says 4 seconds ago, Kingsley pulled the trigger. Now there's no one else alive. Somewhere, Belladonna is laughing, and we see Spider-Man all thrown. By the way, this cover is done by Frank Miller. And yes, that Frank Miller. So, all right. Al Milgrom, I think, is the inker of this. But, all right. So, double defeat. And here we go, right where we left off. Same creative team as the previous issue. And he uses that filter to cover the White Prowler's mouth. And he's going to try to get him out of here. And he's going to do all sorts of acrobatic things. Eventually, he breaks that window. But she wasn't there. And so, with fresh air, he starts to recover. And the spider sense goes around. And this thing blows up. It wasn't Prowler who did it. Gives him to the cops. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to go, because this is kind of a continuing story, but we're not really continuing the story per se. Again, I'm only concerned with the Hobgoblin bits. Peter's going to go take a shower after all that here. And I think he's got a romantic interest with this blonde girl, but again, we're not concerning ourselves with this here. So, all right, we are going to get to the part here where we get to Roderick Kingsley. You see here, Prowler is escaping because, nobody pays attention. And he dresses as a cop and takes his stuff here. And he takes this lady's car. And so just like that, the dude escaped. So, all right. And we're already 12 pages in it. And so we are now going to deal with who Belladonna is here. So, Spider-Man shows up here and accuses her of being this lady being Belladonna. And she's like, nope, not me. And so she says that she's actually Belladonna's sister. And here we get the origin that she used to be a rival of Roderick Kingsley, but Roderick Kingsley took one of their models here because he was jealous of how successful they were. And that former model claimed that their cosmetics caused severe skin disorders, which wasn't true, but it was too late here. It says here, before any legal action could be taken on behalf of the bad publicity, on our behalf, the bad publicity had ruined our business. Our accounts dried up. Creditors called due their loans, and we were forced to sell. So, you can see supervillain origin here. So, now she's going to Spider-Man leaves, but once he goes, the sister grabs the phone. She's got an evil smile here. Uses a handkerchief to disguise her voice, and she's like, "This is the greatest stroke of luck imaginable, and to think how close I came to giving it all away. That fool doesn't realize how near he was to the truth, and now he'll be the perfect foil for my revenge." And so she calls Kingsley, which will give us an idea of the cover here. And so Kingsley says, so it was Belladonna. I haven't read these in forever, so you'll have to excuse me here. I kind of glanced at them before I started reading them, but she says she's disguised her voice with that handkerchief. So she's like, Spider-Man has joined my crusade of vengeance. He's coming for you, and hangs up. And so he still doesn't know who Belladonna is, even though we, as a reader, this looks very Michael Goldenish. And so she's calling everybody and says that there's going to be a big payoff. So, all right, Spider-Man is going to go to Roderick, and now here, let's see. So, are they together? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just moving on. And so, anyway, so yes, this is Belladonna. So this was the sister. And okay. Anyway, so he's all worried about Spider-Man. Spider-Man's outside. He comes in, and Kingsley shoots Spider-Man. Oh my goodness. And he's like, he attacked me. It was self-defense. And it looks like now Spider-Man's dead. Of course, Belladonna is happy because she dealt with Spider-Man. And let's see here. Someone is following them, but we don't know who it is. And she comes through. And it was the Prowler who was following them. And knows that she really was Belladonna. And he's like, you owe me. And so she pays him. She's going to use the gun. But he's like, nope. And she's going to throw him. But Spider-Man shows up. And here comes the bad guys. He punches him. Everybody comes through. Spider-Man gets out here. And so, she goes, "Oh, Spider-Man, you're dead," and he's like, no, I knew you were listening, and I always knew you were Belladonna because you make such a, very, very, uh, uh, someone who supervises a cosmetic lab is much better candidate for Belladonna." And I noticed Ruddy Boy's gun, so I decided to run a little scam. There's a customer next door to Roddy's place. They had this mannequin with the nicest Spider-Man suit you ever saw in the storage room. Well, it used to be in the storeroom, and so he used that. And so what he shot was actually that dummy. And so he deals with them and calls the police and leaves everybody hanging here. Very, by the way, taking things from vigilantes isn't good. And so that actually ends the beginning of Roderick King. So this this will lead now to where I will be all caught up now into Amazing Spider-Man. So this Roderick Kingsley will become the Hobgoblin, the official Hobgoblin. So there we go. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.